Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Mitigate Supply Chain Impacts in Your Oracle ERP. The webinar is sponsored by More for Apps. My name is Caitlin Thomas, and I will be your moderator for this event. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us for this presentation. Now on to our speakers. Rachana Haste is a pre-sales consultant with More for Apps. Rachana's Oracle story started just after she received her MBA from the Indian School of Business. Following her degree, she moved to the US for Oracle e-Business Suite implementation and support services and has been working in this space for 15 plus years. Her knowledge of EBS has taken her across many different customers throughout the world, helping implement various modules. Rachana decided to join the More for Apps team when she wanted to change to the products world from the IT services sector. She enjoys working with different clients and businesses as they have a variety of challenges. Steve Dozier is our regional sales manager. Steve is fascinated by the unique mission, accomplishments, and culture of More for Apps clients. He sees the world from their perspective and invests time up front to explore and understand their goals. This insight allows him to understand their needs and, along with his team, build a foundation on which to help them create successful outcomes. I'd like to draw your attention to the next slide and introduce our upcoming webinars. Please mark your calendars and keep an eye on your inboxes for our upcoming webinars with Mr. Excel to be hosted on July 13th and September 14th. Now, a few housekeeping items. Audio is available by dialing the number provided. If you have any questions, we ask that you reserve them for the end of the webinar using the Q&A panel, and we'll respond at that time. At the conclusion of the webinar, there will be a few survey questions about your webinar experience. Your participation in the survey will be greatly appreciated. Finally, you will receive the slides and the recording from today's webinar within the next 24 hours. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or your account manager. On to the next slide, please, to discuss the More for Apps overview. More for Apps started in 2000 by a group of Oracle consultants in search of a better way to load and manage data from a spreadsheet directly connected to Oracle ERP. Now, 21 years later, we offer nearly 30 out-of-the-box wizards built specifically for Oracle e-Business Suite and Fusion Cloud ERP with validated integration and tight security. More for Apps is a market leader, offering 24/7 global support coverage for over 400 customers and 34,000 plus end users. We aim to improve operational efficiencies, productivity, and accuracy of data entry. And without further ado, we'll get started with today's webinar, How to Mitigate Supply Chain Impacts in Your Oracle ERP.
Thank you, Caitlin. More for Apps enables users to create better business processes around their Oracle ERP for better business outcomes. Our toolboxes provide an Excel spreadsheet interface that integrates seamlessly into Oracle's ERP system, streamlining data, allowing your ERP to work the way it needs to. It's more than just a simple data loader. Users can download, edit, upload, and validate data, all from a familiar Excel interface that anyone can use. With accurate data, Oracle becomes the powerful single source of data that business leaders demand. Next slide, please. So this whole endeavor started when the pandemic restrictions started to be released or softened, and our family started going to dinner again and eating out. And we'd go to our favorite seafood restaurant close to the beach. So we'd noticed that nothing much had changed, and the restaurants were just happy to get our business and happy that we were showing up. So we would go to this restaurant maybe every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. Next slide, please. What we noticed is the restaurant would start changing the marquee and changing their menus. And because they were either laminated menus or fixed sign marquees that weren't digital, they would tape over prices as their prices were changing. Next, please. They would actually write the prices in handwritten ink, and then they would cross out prices. And then the next week, next please, Rachana, they would write in new prices. So I got to thinking, if small organizations and mom and pop restaurants have to manage their data like this, what are our large organizations going through with the supply chain issues that they're dealing with? How many data elements are they having to change? And what increased workload is that providing? Next, please. So in addition, we did a little more research going out to other restaurants. And what we noticed is prices were increasing everywhere. And in this particular case, this restaurant is now charging $10.95 US for 6 chicken wings. That's a lot of money to pay for an appendage of a flightless bird that used to cost about 50 cents each. So this price increase is radical and as much as 60% in certain food items in a year. Next slide, please. So as we traveled our neighborhoods, certainly we saw more and more indications of price hikes, as well as supply chain interruptions. So we all know that we're suffering with gasoline prices and petrol prices in the UK, and with bare shelves and increasing prices in our stores. And I thought to myself, hey, we're coming out of this pandemic. Shouldn't things be getting better? When in fact, some things were getting worse. In the US and UK, we have approximately 6% core inflation rates. If you look at consumer prices, they're up between 8 and 9%, according to the UK Office of National Statistics and the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. Wholesale prices, the input prices to create goods and services that come to market, are up 11 to 14%, so even higher than consumer prices. Gasoline is up 42% in the United States, approaching $5 a gallon, whereas petrol is up over 12% in the UK at almost $8, the equivalent of $8 a gallon or $2 per liter. The shipping indexes, shipping costs are up $560%. What it used to take to ship a 40-foot container would be about $1,500 US, is now running about $8,500 US. So shipping's gotten even more expensive. And then finally, according to the United Nations, basic food commodities like cereals and grains, meat, dairy, etc., are up 60% in the past 2 years. So it clicked. That's why we're seeing this phenomena, obviously, in our market and in our stores as well. Next slide, please. So we all know that there are worldwide factors affecting the current situation. We have the war in Ukraine that's affecting providing a shortage of oil, gas, metals, wheat, corn, barley, sunflower. We have increased expenses on defense support as well as humanitarian aid. We also have COVID-19 lingering effects of post-pandemic demand increase, as well as post-pandemic related shortages. And we also have economic policies that our governments have instilled to certainly stimulate the economy. But of course, that does create additional debt and increased prices in the market as well. The US dollar is strong, and because oil is priced in the US dollar, the price of oil is more impacted throughout the rest of the world. So as you can see, the Federal Board of Reserve Monetary Policy Committee has statements out in the news, as well as the United Nations in terms of price of food, et cetera. So next slide, please. All right, so the thought is, how is all of this affecting the supply chain? There are data inputs into our ERP systems that are certainly being impacted. As costs go up, we have to adjust price. As manufacturing is impacted by shortages, we have delivery and lead time changes or delays. We have increases and decreases in inventory that have to be accounted for. And when we look at the materials that we're using for input to manufacture goods, we have alternate suppliers that we need to find because they may be out of goods that we need. So we do need alternates. We might need to ship from alternate locations. So we're receiving goods maybe from closer to home or domestic providers versus imported goods from overseas providers, as well as looking for product substitutions, materials that we could use that are either different, better, or can have the similar impact as the materials that we're using previously. So all of these data elements will need to be updated en masse. We have an electronics client who regularly updates the price of about 80,000 items, and that's on a weekly basis that they need to do that. So as the velocity of price change happens on a weekly basis, they're impacting all of their own price inputs. An aerospace client that used to update their costs once a quarter is now relegated to updating their costs every 2 weeks. So they've gone up 6-fold or so. Next slide, please. All right, we're going to ask our first poll question. Poller, please. Okay, so how many unscheduled, unplanned price or item cost changes have you made in the last 6 months? We'll give you some time to answer or respond. I'll give you about 5 or 6 more seconds here. So let's go ahead and share the results. So as you can see, 61% of you have responded a lot, and certainly some of you haven't made many at all, and 22% too many to count. So certainly we're making a lot of changes in our data set within our ERP systems. Thank you, Rachana. Next slide, please. All right, so as we have all of these changes occurring in our ERP systems, there are risks to not changing the data and not having current information up to date based on what's happening with our supply chain. So if we aren't updating our cost input prices, we could be quoting inaccurate prices to customers, as well as missing some profit opportunities by not accounting for increased costs and making price adjustments. If we aren't capturing the right quantities, or if we're having impacts on our quantities of input materials, we're creating shortages that can delay production, and we're anticipating the wrong demand, so we're not ordering enough goods in order to complete our processes in manufacturing. Planning and decision making are impacted. We can have inaccurate forecasts, so we can't have all the right correct indicators to help us manage the business, as well as coming up with the wrong strategies based on bad data sets, bad input data. And finally, and maybe the most impactful to our business, is poor customer service. Missed delivery dates, not communicating enough with your customers to let them know that their shipments might be delayed or what we can do, what we're doing about it, and setting poor expectations overall. So we know that there are risks associated with poor data or bad data, and we've all felt those. Next slide, please. So we have our second polling question. And we'll give that a minute to pop up. Okay. How many order deliveries have you experienced delays with, either personally or for your business, in the last 6 months? Please pick an answer. I see an answer that says same order. I think that's supposed to be some orders. Right, we'll give you 5 more seconds. Okay, shall we share the results? Okay, as you can see, it's fairly split. It's fairly even between every other order and some orders. So we're all experiencing, very few people have hardly had any delivery delays. I know that I've experienced a few myself, but I'll tell you, there's one company that's doing a really good job, and that's Amazon. And Amazon Prime used to quote 1 to 2 day delivery, and I notice now in some of their products, they're quoting between 7 to 10 days deliveries. So they're setting up a longer expectation, when in actuality, their shipping and orders are arriving within 5 days or less. So the good news is that Amazon's doing a great job of setting expectations and communicating the delivery dates via text and email if you choose to participate in their programs. So next slide, please. So the challenge of data entry into Oracle. We all know that there are some challenges, and Oracle doesn't necessarily make it easy for us to get data in mass. We've heard from our customers that Oracle's ERP tools significantly limit our customers from reacting to or adapting to fast changes in the marketplace. Time isn't on our side, and we need every advantage that we can get. The data uploads and downloads take more time than they should. The tools that Oracle provides are hard, difficult to use, and many times require the support of experienced technical professionals who are already overloaded with their workload. The editing and adding of data does, and especially in a manual manner, is not always as smooth, and it's clunky at times. And then speed, the time that it takes to load quantities of data. By the time you're done with some data sets, the information might be outdated already and you're ready to load the next cycle. So this is information certainly that we're hearing from our customers and in the marketplace. I'm sure this is something that many of you can relate to as well. Next slide, please. Our third and final poll. Give it a moment to pop up. So, is the supply chain situation currently impacting your ability to keep Oracle up to date? Please select one answer. Give you 5 more seconds or so. And let's go ahead and share the results. All right, very little impact in some cases, and we have split between losing sleep, and it's like my data stuck in 2020. So interesting results. Next slide, please. So we do have a customer story to share with you. We have a medical products manufacturer with worldwide operations. They had 400,000 items that they needed to maintain, and their small team couldn't keep up with the data. Initially, they found that one person could maintain and edit about 100 items in an hour. So they were able to clean about and edit about 800 items in a day. So out of that 400,000 items, it would take them quite a while to get through that complete list. After implementing more for apps solutions, instead of cleaning 800 items in one day, they were able to clean 1,200 items in an hour by a single user. So you can see the factor by which they increased their productivity by using tools that made it easier, faster, and more reliable to enter data into Oracle. Next slide, please. All right, so it's really all about the data. What we're hearing from our customers is that they're overwhelmed with the rate of data change and the amount of data that they're having to edit. Oracle forms and data loading tools are not efficient, and they create a lot of room for error. So we're going to show you a way that you can download, edit, validate, and update data from a single Excel spreadsheet. You can take advantage of the power of Excel, a tool that you already know how to use, and you're using data that's protected behind Oracle's own security rules, accessible only with an Oracle login. So Rachana will now show you a different way to stay on top of the changes in supply chain data. Rachana?
Sure, thank you, Steve. So yes, I'll go through a practical application demo video, which will cover a few of our products, which help with these kind of mass data maintenance, mass data changes, and entry. So let me switch over to the video. So what we have here is the item cost wizard, which is our EBS solution to maintain your standard costs within Oracle costing module. And it can address if you have discrete standard costing. So let me walk through this. This is how it starts out, just a simple Excel and all of the controls up here on the ribbons, which is a common theme going across all of our tools. It gives you the ability to make this a real-time connected interface into your Oracle instance. So we are logged in, we are ready to upload or download a two-way communication with your Oracle instance. So let's get rolling. We have these list of items in a certain warehouse that we need to update costs on. And it's the cost type of current. It could be any other cost types like pending or any other that you might have to update. So let's get a picture of the latest and greatest from Oracle, which is done by this download. As you saw, it was pretty simple. We just had to highlight our data set, the list of items, and run the download, and it brings back all of the information that you have in this table from your instance real time, including your rates that are recorded or defined for these items in Oracle. So you see that it is broken by element, sub-element. You get the rates, you can examine. You can also even download and look at the last PO price and the invoice price. It's not on this table, but that it can easily be extended. So there are many more columns than what you see here. And we can always insert any scratch work or formula columns, and the wizard still continues to operate. Let's get a few more items, this time through a download form, which gives you more flexibility when you don't have a list of items to start with. You'll notice that you can query using your warehouse, using a range of items. You can even query using a category of items if you don't want to narrow down on any specific items. So you can search by category. Now you'll notice here that there's also options to search by element or sub-element if a specific element or anything is undergoing a change. You can also include your last PO price and purchase price if you want to look at those while doing your updates. So just fill in your parameters and hit the download, and it brings everything real time from your Oracle instance, lists it neatly as a table. And this is almost like an ad hoc raw report also. You could use it as that, run pivots or dashboards, analytics on this. That also is a side usage that many of our customers put this to. Okay, so going along, we are going to put a percentage increase. So I just rename these columns, and this is going to be my rate or amount. So I'm just going to do a 15% increase. Pretty simple, just use Excel formulae. And you can just reference the original cost, and just remember to make it generic to run the formula and have the numeric values. And then once it's Excel, the benefits are that you can just sweep across a whole lot of these records in one go, put the values where you want it. If you want to skip any, you can skip those. And then once you're happy with your data set, you can just go ahead, highlight your data set, and push them back into your instance. And you'll see that there's real-time feedback coming from the instance when we hit the upload. So let's go and highlight only this batch on the bottom half, go to your ribbon, and we'll find our upload button and just do a selection. So that just sends this entire data set and validates. It makes sure it's not sending anything invalid, junk data, and it puts it through the interfaces. As you can see, it submits the cost import program. The users can send it, click it from here, or it can be scheduled in the background, but it's going through Oracle's approved and standardized user interface tables. And it runs the same standard import program that you might have to build if you were building it. We have seen many customers just have their own conversion programs and a lot of custom programs built around this, and it's a lot of effort. Instead, this is all out of the box. There's also ability to submit the standard cost update. If you're turning the current one and you want to make it frozen, you can even run that right from here. So it's an all-encompassing, self-sufficient costing tool for you. You can even do the cost roll-ups. There are ways to do that. If you just put in yes here, you can perform a cost roll-up once you have updated the components, roll it up to the BOM. So that was for the discrete standard costing warehouses that you might have. If you have average costing, there's no sweat. We have another tool, the material transaction wizard, and this can address average costing elements as well. So this, besides doing average costing, it also does miscellaneous issues, receipts, and all sorts of transactions, as the name suggests, which can help get you on hand or issue out or do any sub-inventory transfers, move from one warehouse to another to cover up shortages. That can also be done from here. So again, the same steps. It's pretty intuitive. Once you know one tool, it applies across board. You put in your list of items and go into the download using sheet. There is also a download form, just like we saw in the other. So two ways always to extract. If you have a list, just put that on the sheet and you're ready to download, or you can use the form to kind of combine your parameters. So this will get your cost by the elements and your current cost on the average costing. And then the steps beyond are, the mechanics are the same. You'll just go in, update the new cost under these columns, hit the upload, it goes through the standard interfaces and the same cycle. And this is your cost group. If you have multiple, you can address multiple, or you can filter by that when you're downloading as well. So we won't go through this entire exercise on the average costing. It runs pretty similar, runs through the material transactions interface, a standard Oracle feature, and it brings back your feedback onto the columns, the status columns on the left, exactly as we saw before, as accepted or rejected. Okay, so the next one that we are going to go into, briefly, this is the price list wizard. So accompanied with your cost increases, obviously you have to hike up the prices. That can also be a very large voluminous change going across multiple items, multiple assemblies that you have on the offering. And it could also be that you might have multiple price lists for multiple customers. So it's quite a huge, challenging set of data that you're looking at. Many people, they configure price lists based on each customer or each region. So it could be quite a bit based on distributors. They have another price list. So it could run into 10,000s where you have to update these. So an Excel kind of interface will come in really handy to get through the voluminous task. So again, the same kind of common intuitive way of working through it. You have your download, you have the ribbons, logging in everything, validations, and the forms are pretty comprehensive. You're able to download only the current and future effective pricing. You don't want to look at all the historic end dated pricing of the product for customers. So you can skip those and just extract the current effective or future effective pricing, and then fill in any other parameters that you want to, including a list of price lists, or you can go directly to an item. You know that a certain group of assembly items are undergoing a change. You can just give a range here, and you don't even need to look for a specific price list. It'll just pull in any price list that carries this product. And it could be customer specific, it could be region specific, distribution, any of those. You can add qualifiers if you have customers as qualifiers. You can have pricing attribute level criteria, any of these filters, and you have a very quick download of all of the current items that are featuring on your price lists. So pretty handy. These kind of things could be very, very cumbersome reports in Oracle. If you want to pull this kind of an extract, you might have to write a report which goes and fetches items from across all your price lists. So that becomes much simpler here. So once we have this, it's pretty easy to just go and put in an end date. If you're maintaining historic pricing, basically you want to maintain your track of or the history of your pricing changes, you would typically end date and put a new value or a new revised price. If you don't really, you just can go and overwrite the existing price right here. But typically I've seen that customers tend to maintain the log of all the changes they've done. So they put the end date and then put a new record value, which will basically go and enter a new line into your price list, Oracle price list. So again, here we are assuming a 15% hike, which is, given the day and age, it's not very unusual. Now this time, instead of copying down, I'm just going to put it on this gray row on the top, which again, in all of our wizards, act as a default. So it kind of sticks that value to all of the rows in one sweep. Once we are happy, we'll go ahead and submit these updates. You'll see that this is marked as update up on the top, and it kind of percolates down. That's the benefit of this gray row running on the top, the banner row. It acts as a filler value for all the rows. And when you get real-time feedback, including error messages, if everything's good, it's accepted. You can verify again, use these couple of price lists on the top. I can re-download them and make sure that the changes have gone through. So I can put them on the sheet this time and download using sheet, since I know the exact names now. And then if I want to verify, I can go over to the lines. And I can see here that some of them, the assembly items that I had filtered, all of the AS assembly items, they've got end dated, and they've been re-entered in new lines starting 5/31, the day after, with a slight increase of 15% over from 13 to 14.9. So that's the way the price list wizard works, and it addresses, bulk pricing. There's also bulk import, offline import mode, basically. And then let's go over to the sales orders, which is handling your customer commitments. So you can resource your sales order lines. If there is a shortage in one warehouse, you might want to resource those lines from another warehouse. Those are quite a significant amount of changes that you might have to handle across a lot of sales orders. You might have changes in the dates, the scheduled ship dates, scheduled arrival dates, to keep your customers informed about any delays. So all of that could amount to quite a lot of work for the customer service department, customer care department. And they can turn to these kind of tools if it gets overwhelming. So again, we'll go to the download form to pick on specific order dates. You can do by shipping dates or order type, status, any of these to narrow down on your orders that you want to make a bulk change on. There's also line level criteria. Here you can search by item. If there's a specific item you know that needs changes, you can search by warehouse if you know that's running out, and then download all of those lines. And now we can just examine the data, go and overwrite whatever needs to change, dates or quantities. You can even change from internally sourced to external sourced if you want to convert it to a dropship line. All of those columns are also available here. So in this case, I'm just going to change that warehouse. And let's look at it again. So this was the warehouse that I'm going to default as M1, erase it from all of these so that it's going to inherit M1. Okay, and then moving along, this is the column for the source type. If you want to change it to external, it would become a dropship, and you can source it from the supplier's warehouse directly, okay, or a manufacturer warehouse directly. Let's change the promised date, or rather the ship date. That's what we are going to notify. That usually sends a customer acknowledgement. I've seen in most places. If you have set your Oracle configurations to trigger off an automatic acknowledgement, any change on the scheduled date at the ship or arrival level will just trigger off that acknowledgement reports to go. So that becomes very easy to keep the customer up to date real time with what is happening. Let's just run this update. Again, the action is up here on the top, and we can trust the wizard to just percolate it down on every line that we have here. That runs it through, and we have the results as accepted. Similar changes on the purchasing side. You might have a lot of change on your promise shipment dates to keep your planning in, keeping it together, keeping it up to date. Your plans have to rerun the scheduling, the MRPs, all of those resource planning that have to be up to date. So you want to keep it real time updated, that what is the expected time when your supplier is actually going to send something to you and when are you going to receive it. So you can update your need by dates, you can update your promise dates and do a mass change on those. Let's go along a little. Let's forward this a little. These are formulas again I used, even referencing today I could do that and use it. So let's go forward a little. Seems to be the same mechanics. Now everybody's used to it, how it runs. And this one uses an API, so it's real time coming back with feedback. We'll also take a peek in our cloud tools just after verifying this with a download, or I can skip the download. This is just to verify once the changes have gone through. I'm just going in here and making sure the changes have gone through here. So this is our cloud toolbox now, and this is on the procurement module. So the exact cousin of what I saw a second ago with the purchase order wizard, where we were making changes to the PO lines. We are making changes on the procurement module, which will connect. This integrator will connect to your cloud instance. So this is for the customers who are already on cloud. So we have offerings on both sides, whether it's EBS or Oracle Cloud. You'll notice that it's pretty much the same kind of steps, and the user experience will be the same. Of course, there's different color schemes and all of that. This is a little more current theme, but other than that, the mechanics and the steps are really the same. You can download existing POs, you can update quantities, and you can split. If you want to do a split, what we are doing here is splitting to a new line and basically changing the dates on existing lines. So you'll see that it's pretty similar. You can put your data in on the lines, download a chunk of PO lines here against that single PO, and you can go and halve the quantity. In this case, we are just going to reduce the quantity because at this particular shipment date, we're only expecting half of the quantity. The supplier has asked us for a split, let's say. So you're just going to reduce the scheduled quantity that's coming in on this date, and then we are going to split to a new line with a later delivery date. So this is an update where we reduce the quantity, and the same set of lines we can just straight away, since it's Excel, we can straight away replicate and put a new date to add the split lines. So it's that simple as that when it is in Excel. And these are the kind of things, the story that Steve was referencing with the manufacturer. They had to change a lot of items on the buyers. They had to change the items sourcing and split lines. All of this was done using our tools, and they could accomplish it in a really short time. So here's where we are creating the new lines with the rest of the quantity, the remainder quantity that's getting delayed, and the date will be slightly pushed out on these. So just overwrite all the updates that you want, mark these lines as add, that's all we need to do, and then we can upload it with a change description. Again, we're using the modes and all of that using the defaulting row quite a bit. So that takes care of the upload. You get immediate feedback, just as we saw before. Quite intuitive and easy to use. And then let's just skip forward. I think I went a little too forward here. Okay, so this is the item cost wizard, and we had seen a bit of this already. So I'll just skip on this. And here's the product definition module now. So this is the kind of change we were talking about in the interest of time. I'm just going to skip ahead a little. Okay, so here we have the product definition. Now this is our cloud solution for maintaining items. And here you can download items, look at all of its attributes, including lead times, even the buyer or the list price of the item. Those are things that are on the attributes of an item. You can look at those and make mass changes. And that's exactly what the medical manufacturer company had done when they had to ramp up their production on a few bedside pulmonary monitoring kind of devices like handheld ultrasonic or ultrasound devices. When they had to do that, they had to mass change a lot of items and shorten their lead times and do a lot of PO changes to meet the surplus in demand that they had last year. Okay, so we are going to download the items, again, using the sheet or the form, update the lead times, and then we can verify the changes. So we can put an organization and item combination here, and it could even be a wildcard like this, so that it gets everything that starts with AS1. These are all the SKUs, and we are just going to delay the processing days, lead times, and a whole lot of things that you want to. This doesn't have the buyer information on this current layout, but those columns are all available. It can get pretty busy if you include everything that is there on the item. So that's why we tend to cut it short and keep it succinct of what we need to update. And you can have multiple tabs and worksheets within the integrator workbook so that you can address different sections at a time. As you can see, it runs into many tabs here, and that's the reason we can sliver it down and break it down. So I think I'll give it a pause here and go back to the slides, and these are the solutions that we covered: the item cost, price list, sales orders, PO, as well as material transactions for the average costing, and a few of our cloud modules as well. So these are the solutions. These are the areas that we talked about which need mass changes in Oracle. When it comes to price changes and item cost changes, it is affecting your price list and standard cost in the item costing module or your average costing. So we have solutions in the way of price list wizard, item cost wizard, and material transaction wizard to fill these needs. When it comes to materials and putting item substitutions, we have the item extension wizard. It's again a corollary, a product to the item wizard. We have to manage your vendors and vendor locations. We have the supplier wizard, and you can quickly add alternate locations. Many of our customers had to redirect sourcing from, let's say, somewhere from China or other places, or Europe. During the Suez Canal, they had to reroute everything to resource or supply from an alternate vendor location, maybe in Mexico or near shore. So all of those new locations could be set up very easily. You could change the default locations very easily using our supplier wizard. And then on the manufacturing side, to maintain your POs and material transactions and the lead times, we saw the item wizard and the PO wizard and the material transactions wizard. Back to Steve to cover our entire product suite.
I just realized that was on mute. Thank you, Rachana. Nice job on the demo. Certainly the goal is to help you manage the data elements that are being impacted by the supply chain, but it's also bigger than supply chain issues, and more perhaps has tools and wizards to help you manage other areas of Oracle's ERP system. Our goal is to help you manage it independently, empower the user, free up IT staff, give you faster data entry and more accurate ability to get to the results that you want. The ultimate goal is to let you capitalize on the power of your Oracle ERP systems. So these are the other areas, the other Oracle modules that we certainly align with. And if there's any interest, we'll certainly entertain questions and look forward to hearing from you. So we do have some time for Q&A. Could you please, Caitlin, could you please moderate our Q&A for us so that we can respond to questions?
Definitely. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Rachana. One of our first questions that came in, is there any spreadsheet solution to manage vendor site locations?
I can take that one. Yes. So as I was talking about supplier maintenance, that was the solution which will help you add supplier sites. So supplier wizard is the answer to that. And a similar thing, corollary would come out in future for our cloud as well. Currently it is for EBS.
Thank you. Do you have anything for sourcing rules in ASLs?
Yes, when it comes to approved supplier lists and sourcing rules, those also need to undergo changes. So we have a sourcing wizard that will take care of mass changes on the assignment rules, assignment sets on the sourcing rules, as well as the ASLs by item and by supplier. You can query by item, query by supplier, and make changes across a lot of those.
Thank you. We have a few other questions to get to, but I just wanted to remind the audience that you can submit your questions in the Q&A. We do see them. They're coming in. So if you think of anything during the session, please feel free to type them in. Another question we have is, how are the spreadsheets taking care of security?
Yeah, that's an important question. So yes, what we do is we basically go in with your Oracle credentials. I didn't cover the login in any of my videos, but essentially there's a pop-up which when you click on login, it gives you the same screen, sign-on screen that you see when you are logging on from the browser window. So you can put in your Oracle credentials, username, password. It authenticates against your function access within Oracle, brings you back the same exact responsibilities that you have on Oracle, including operating units. And then you are only able to go in and look at and manipulate data that is accessible to you as if you are in Oracle. Nothing different, nothing extra or nothing less. That's how it works.
Great. Thank you for that explanation. Any solutions for bills of materials and routings?
Yes, we have right here on the slide, you can see that there is the manufacturing suite also, where we can take care of under the product definition actually. So it's kind of rolled within that. But we have a bill of materials wizard, the BOM wizard we call it. And there is routing wizard, two separate wizards that can take care of this area in the EBS world as of now.
Great. Is it possible to use for create, update, lookup values tables?
Yes, we have a flex values loader as well. We have a suite of smaller, lighter products called loaders, which are very specific and targeted in their what they access and what they modify. So this is a loader, and it's called a flex values loader. So it can manipulate your flex field, the flex values, the lookup values, and all of that.
Great. And we do have another question that came in. This individual had to leave the webinar. I do have their details so we can get back to them, but it might also be a question others are wondering. This person's business is currently updating all purchasing category codes. So these all need to be updated on blanket purchase agreement lines, of which there are thousands. Is there any development in purchasing to provide this ability to update BPA lines?
So our purchase order wizard that I showed has a mode for blanket agreements. Now we are very strictly adhering to what Oracle provides as updatable on their interfaces or APIs. So I think the question is also referencing to the limitations there is on blanket agreements on what can and cannot be updated, including the purchase category. So if you're looking for purchasing category, I'll have to just check if that is a permitted change. If Oracle allows it through the interfaces, our wizards will also allow it, and you could do it from Excel. But we just need to check if that limitation is there or it has been removed, if these things can be changed on the blanket agreements. But definitely there is a blanket agreement mode where you can download thousands of blanket agreement lines, make changes like adding the new break into your BPA, end dating, all of those can be done. The purchasing category is a question that we can take away.
Great, thank you. These are all the questions we have. So thank you for answering them, Rachana. We can move on to the next slide.
All right. That was the Q&A.
Yeah, we can go to that. Here are some additional resources. As mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, you will be getting the recording and webinar materials tomorrow, so keep an eye out on your inboxes. Next slide. And that's our webinar. So thank you all for your time today. Hopefully you got a lot out of our webinar. Thank you to Steve and Rachana for hosting for us. You both did a wonderful job. I'd like to ask you to please take a moment to complete our survey after this webinar has ended. And if you think of any other questions, please feel free to reach out to myself, Steve, Rachana, our email address, inquiry@moreforapps.com, and we can get back to you, or if you have an account manager, and any one of us will be able to assist you. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.